All right, welcome back. Last time we made a beautiful little rocket game where you have simple controls. They fall from meteors fall from the sky or above the camera, and the player has to dodge them with a simple character controller. Today we want to add a few elements to it. Nothing crazy. We're gonna add a make meteors fall faster as time goes up, make meteors spawn quicker over time, and we're trying to aim for about 60 seconds of average gameplay. This is because it is a web game, so you have about 60 seconds to hook them and make it fun. They don't really play for much longer than that if it's not addicting immediately. You want an average session to be about 60 seconds. So let's get into it. First thing that we are trying to do is make meteors fall faster as time goes up. So this means that we have to go into our meteor script. So if you don't have it open, go to prefabs, go to the prefab we made last time, and it's our meteor. If you aren't using the folder that I provided for all the assets and stuff like that, then you'll just have to go in and create it yourself and make an object and get a meteor sprite. So let's open up our meteor, and we're going to change just one thing in here, or a couple things, I guess. We're going to switch public to private float, because right now we set it in the inspector. We don't really want that. We want to be able to set it with our spawner script based on our time element. And then from here, what we are going to do is add a new function. So we're going to go public, and this one is going to be called initialize. Or inish. And this literally just initializes our meteor speed. So we can type in meteor speed because it takes in that variable. And this is a float. Cool. And now all we have to do is set our meteor speed equal to that. So we're going to go speed equals meteor speed. So all this code does is it takes in it's a function called from a different script, and when it's called, it's passed a meteor speed, and it will set our actual meteor speed to that on the start of the object. So our spawner is the one instantiating this, so we want to go to our spawner, and in here we're going to add a few more variables so we can get our meteor speed working. We will use headers so we kind of don't get lost in our inspector. This is a nice feature where it kind of creates a little label above all of our variables so we can see. So let's name it meteor speed variables. And then we'll head into our variables. We'll do a public float, and the first one's going to be ramp time. This is going to be our 60-second variable. This is basically our difficulty, how fast we want it to get difficult. We want it to be maximum difficult at about 60 seconds because we're shooting for our 60-second ramp-up time for the player to not lose interest too fast. We're going to give it a base meteor speed. And we can just set this to 3F for now, which I believe is what we had it at last time at the end of the video, and then our public float max meteor speed. And this is going to be the max ramp up time, so at 60 seconds, this is what this value will be. We can set it to 15 for now. I'm not exactly sure how fast that will be, but we can find out by playing it. Now to get this to work, what we're going to do is come into our spawn meteor object, and our first line of code spawns meteor randomly on the x-axis above the camera view. We're not going to mess with that at all, but we are going to mess with our instantiation method. So our first thing we need to do is get our new speed, which is going to be named current speed. So let's make a new float called current speed. We're going to use a function built into Unity, math, and then .lerp. So this function takes in three variables. It will take in our minimum speed. So we can go base meteor speed, and then it'll take in our max meteor speed. And then the third one is kind of the time it takes to interpolate between the two values that we decide. So our base speed and our max speed, how long it takes to actually get from our base speed to our max speed. And we'll set current speed every time based upon that. So what we can do here is set it equal to time.time divided by our ramp time. So how much time has passed in the actual game divided by our ramp time to get us a nice, good, constant increase in current speed. This is going to be very linear progression. If you want something exponential to get crazy, crazy hard, then you would be using something slightly different. In here, we're going to do game object, not game manager, game object, and we'll name this meteor. Equals instantiate meteor prefab. All this does is puts our meteor as a meteor game object that we can actually change things in the game with, or in our script with. So now that we have that variable set as meteor, we have a connection to our meteor objects that are spawned, which means that we can access the scripts attached to them, such as our meteor script. So what we're going to do is actually get that component. So we'll go meteor, and then we can do get component. And in here, we want to get the meteor script, and we are going to call the initialize method, and we're going to pass through our current speed. Passing in our current speed, this just sends our new interpolated speed between our ramp time and all that good stuff into this script where it can process that. So let's see if it works. Actually, before we hop in, let's do one more thing. We're just going to do debug.log. That way you guys can actually see our current speed get updated. Oh, not a string. And we'll set current speed in here. Cool. And now when we hop in the game, we should see that our meteors are getting faster as time goes on. It's going to do a little debug log for us. So right now it starts at 3.8 and it looks like it's getting faster and faster. We have 4.2, 4.4. Perfect. They are indeed getting faster. And something we can do is, real quick, let's hop into the game and we're going to hit play. And then as it plays, what we're going to do is grab one of our meteors. So let's grab our meteor. Oh, sorry, not our meteor, our spawner. And now we can see our base meteor speed and our max meteor speed. While we're in the play, we can actually change these to see kind of what the speed looks like. So this is 15, this is our max speed. For example, if you wanted 30, you set it to 30. Oh, that's too fast. And what did we have it at before? Just hit pause and it will send it back to its default value of 3. So 15 looked pretty good as a default meteor speed. I did increase the player to a speed of 8. So if you go to player, go down, we started at 5, I increased the player speed a little bit because it seemed a bit slow. Also from last time, you probably noticed I did drag in our background sprite. This isn't going to be a permanent addition, it's just so I don't die of a black screen, and some particle effects to simulate space a little bit. Now, next, what we want to do is make meteors spawn quicker over time. We're going to be using the same function that we just did to make that work. So, alright, so let's grab this header line up here. We're going to hold control and drag it down here. And then hold Shift, Alt, and F, and that just formats our page, so it goes straight over. And not that we had to do that, but I want to show you guys that because it's a neat little function that's built into VS Code. Now, in our header for our meteor spawn variables, let's rename this real quick so we don't get confused. We're gonna define a few new variables. We're gonna go with a public float min. Ooh, what just happened to me? Public float min spawn and a public float max spawn. Cool. Now that we have min spawn and max spawn, and we're going to use our initial ramp time that we created earlier, we can come in here and start updating our logic, which is in our update function. So when the timer hits 0, it spawns a meteor. After that, it sets the timer back equal to our time interval, which is currently set to 3. So instead of this, we are actually going to make a new variable called current speed, and we're going to use that same function that we used earlier. So let's do float current speed. And why did that autofill? Oh, sorry. So we just did that one. I got confused. We're going to do our spawn interval here. We'll name it spawn interval. And we can set that equal to our math, and we use our lerp. So we can slowly scale up towards our max spawn rate. So we're going to do min spawn, max spawn, and our time elapsed divided by our ramp time. This is going to give us a nice little change in everything. We're going to switch our timer equals spawn interval now instead of time interval because we don't want it to stay constant. We want it to be constantly changing. And then here I will debug.log our spawn variable. That way we can kind of see what it looks like. See how fast we're really ramping up. And I'm going to remove this other one that we had down here. Hit Control S and let's check it in game. What are things looking like? So in our spawner, let's set this stuff up. Our min spawn, let's go with 0.1, and then our max spawn. Oh, sorry, backwards. So our min spawn is going to be our base spawn rate. So we're going to set this to, let's say, 2 seconds. And then our max spawn, every 0.1 seconds they spawn. Our timer interval, we don't need this one anymore. So let's just comment that out so it's not showing. We don't have to worry about it. Cool. Now we have some variables to play with. Let's make sure everything is working properly. All right, cool. Down here, we can see that our spawn time is getting faster. So now it's spawning every 1.8 seconds, now every 1.75, and so on. So now this is happening. Let's make sure our spawn rate of 0.1 isn't too crazy, and the player is likely to die, but it's possible to kind of make it here. So 0.1. Yeah, I've survived for quite a bit now. So yeah, that's awesome. This seems like a pretty well-balanced game that's going to be kind of difficult to get this far. And at some points, it looks like it might be impossible because you will get to a spot where you won't be able to get out. So this is perfect for like a little flash game that we kind of want. And you can make it even faster than this if you want the player to suffer even more. But that's pretty good. 60 seconds. It has a challenging aspect. It gets faster and faster and faster. So that's perfect, and like I said, when you update the inspector values during playtime, it actually reverts back to its original, so we don't have to worry about balancing anything else anymore. Alrighty, I think that was everything. Make meteors spawn quicker over time, aim for about 60 seconds average time, gameplay, nice. And next time, we can work on adding some score and maybe a time element inside of the game to show how long the player's living, and maybe compare with the friends, be like, oh, I lived this long, you lived that long, that kind of thing. It'll be fun. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it wasn't too fast and murderous, but this is, yeah, cool. Anyways, much love. Goodbye. I will see you in the next one.